Once you have learnt fusible web applique, it opens up a whole world of possibilities that you will love. Whether you are quilting and want to add extra details onto your quilt, or whether you want to make standalone projects with some applique detail on there. Whichever one you're looking for, I have got you covered in this video with a step-by-step tutorial. Who am I? I am Kim. This is Quilt with Kim. You, my lovely, are very, very welcome. Let's get started then. Let's kick off with what fusible web actually is, because that'll help you understand how to use it when we get onto the tutorial in just a second. So there's a couple of well-known brand names. There are others as well, but the two main ones are probably Vlieseline's Bonder Web, which I've just popped up on the screen just now. There's also Heat and Bond, which again I've just popped up on the screen now. Those are two very well-known brands of fusible web. There are other more generic brands as well, and they're all made in the same. So let me show you what it is. So this is a little piece of fusible web, and when you have a look at it, you'll see that there is a nice smooth paper side one side, and then on the other side we've got a very rough surface. And if I have a look at this in a bit of close-up, so I've torn this away for you. So there is a paper backing. Ultimately, we take that away, so don't worry about that, but we do need it to start with. And then if you look, there is this is your fusible web. It's let's get that out of the way so you can see. If we look, it's a very thin gauze, but this is an adhesive or a glue, and what it's designed to do is stick two pieces of fabric together. It is permanent, it is also washable, just in case you were wondering about those two, and we do not want it on our iron either because it doesn't come off very easily. Ask me how I know that one. So we have our fusible web, and it is pretty much the same as hemming tape. Hemming tape is just this stuff. It's probably a little bit thicker that we use, but it doesn't have the paper on the hemming tape. But hemming tape comes in strips, whereas fusible web tends to come off a roll or in sheets when you buy it from your retailers or online. So we use it, we don't separate it out when we're using it. I'm just doing this to show you, but when we use it, we want this whole piece of paper, if you like, in as big or as small a piece as you like. Okay, so I hope that helps you understand what fusible web is. So let's get on with the tutorial and I'll show you how to use it. What do we need to do our fusible web applique? Now, we are going to need some fabric, because applique means to apply one thing on top of another, and in fabric terms, it's applying one fabric on top of another fabric. So we're going to need those two fabrics. Now here, we've got our background fabric. That is what we're applying our applique shape onto. So we need the background fabric, and then we need the applique fabric. This is the fabric that we're going to put our applique shape out of, or cut our applique shape out of. Now you will see that the applique fabric is slightly smaller than this background fabric, and that's exactly right, because the shape tends to be smaller than our background. So we need that. We will need a pencil. If you are doing anything with straight lines, you will need a ruler. More on that later. The first shape I'm going to do is a non-directional shape, but I will follow up with a directional shape like a letter, because you want those coming out the right way around. So I'm going to put the ruler to one side for the moment. We are going to need our fusible web, and we need the size that is about the size, give or take, of your applique fabric. Once you have got practiced with applique, you'll know how much to use, but let's just start with a nice practice easy piece and have your applique piece the same size as your applique fabric. So it's just a square. So there's no separation going on, it's just the paper one side and the rough side the other side. Then we need our applique shape. For this, I'm choosing a nice simple heart, because that doesn't matter which way round it goes. All right, and you will see why that's important in a minute. You will need an ironing board or an ironing mat that I've got underneath here, and you will need an iron as well. You will also need an old tea towel, or will become apparent. Okay, so gather your supplies, and then I'll meet you in the next section and I'll show you what to do first. The first thing that we are going to do then is trace our shape. Now I've got a nice shape here. It is non-directional, as I said, and we are going to have our fusible web, and we're going to trace that shape onto our fusible web. Now, which way round does this go? Because this heart is a non-directional shape, it doesn't matter which way round it is, then what we have is the smooth side of your fusible web facing up towards you, and you have the rough side facing down. Now, ultimately, this rough side is our sticky side. That's where the adhesive is, or the glue that makes our fabric stick together. So you want that facing down in this instance, and you can feel they're quite different when you feel it between your finger and thumb. You would definitely feel that one side is rough and the other side is smooth. So let's put the rough side down, and we're simply going to trace around that shape. Now, if your fusible web, like mine, I've got a bit of scrap left over that I'm using here, and it's been curled up and it's a little bit misbehaving, you could use a bit of tape. This is just masking tape, just to stick it down on the corners, if that helps. You don't need to do this, it's not an essential thing, but it can help you just to keep it in one position. This is where our pencil comes in. To be honest, if you use a pen, it doesn't really matter, but I'm going to use a pencil, and all I'm simply going to do is draw round that line, and I'm going to follow that line. Can you see here we've got a nice straight line? So if I'm that way inclined, I might use my ruler to make sure I've got a straight line, but as it is, I'm just going to trace round that line. And this is the same with any shape that you're going to be tracing round. Now, one other thing whilst I'm here, this is a big thick line that I'm tracing round. I'm just picking a point in the middle of this line, this, like the thick line of my heart. As long as you follow the same line, so you've got a bit of consistency, then you're good to go. Okay, smooth off some of these corners. You are not going to see this pencil line. This pencil line will not appear on your fabric at all. So you can do what you like with it. But the goal is to have a nice consistent shape all the way around. Okay, so I have traced my shape. Let's get rid of the my fusible, not my fusible web. Let's get rid of my fusible masking tape, my little masking tape. And we don't need our shape anymore. However, put that aside, keep it in a file somewhere, because when you do your applique again, when you do another piece of applique, you've got shapes in sizes that you know. And if you want to know where to get the shapes from, just go onto Google and search for clip art shapes, and you will find more than you know what to do with. Okay, so I've finished with that. I'm going to put that to one side. And then the next thing that we're going to do is get our fabric. So this is our applique fabric, and then this is where the magic starts to happen. We start with our applique fabric. This is my fabric with its carrots on. We're going to put it right side facing down. So the wrong side of your fabric is facing up towards you. Let's center that up so that you can see. Then we are going to get our shape that we have just been tracing, and we are going to put the rough side down. Do you remember that was the sticky side? I know it doesn't feel sticky, but it is sticky, I promise. We're going to put that rough side face down onto the wrong side of our fabric. So our traced side on the smooth side of our fusible web is facing up towards us. And can you see that's nicely in position all the way around? If I try and wiggle it about a bit so that you can see. Now, one of the things, just before we go further, if your fusible web is bigger than this applique fabric, you're likely to have it stuck to your ironing surface. So it pays to have your fusible web piece that you've got slightly smaller or the same size as your applique fabric. Okay, so that is in position. Then we get the tea towel. This is very important. And we put the tea towel on top of our applique. fabric and our fusible web. So that's sitting nicely underneath there. And why do we have this tea towel? It is not there for any other benefit other than to protect your iron. We do not want your fusible web sticking to your iron because it does not come off. Your tea towel goes over your fusible web so you can feel it underneath there. And then we want a nice hot iron, which I have ready over here. And what we're going to do is hold it in position. You're not ironing like we would a pair of trousers or a shirt or something. We're pressing it and we're holding it for about 10 seconds. So as you can count slowly to 10 in one place, that'll be fine. Then what I'm going to do, can you see the shape of the iron here in one place? If your fusible web is not sticking, that's probably why that you haven't got a hot enough iron and you're not holding it in the same place. So I'm going to move it along a little bit. The idea is to do this over the whole of your fusible web and your fabric that's underneath. So we need to do this in each position until we've got the whole of the shape covered and stuck down. So we'll slowly count down. Now, do you need a dry iron or a steam iron? I think you'll find that officially it's supposed to be a dry iron, but if you can see by the steam coming up, I use a steam iron. I have never known it to be a problem. I am sure I'm going to get comments underneath which tell me off and tell me that I should be using a dry iron and give me all the reasons why. But in all the years I've been doing this, I've never had a problem with a steam iron. So it is entirely up to you. I don't know why my iron is making funny noises either. So let's just make sure that we are all stuck down. Okay, I'm happy with that. Let's move the iron out of the way for a moment. Grand reveal. Can you see here on the edge where it shifted a bit? Oops, and it's gone over onto my ironing board, and look at that. You see that's stuck down. I won't get that off again. It's fine. This is just my ironing mat, but it will stick down quite quickly. Now what you want to do is give that a couple of minutes to cool down because it is really too hot to handle at the moment, but we can see on our shape it is all nicely stuck into place. So I'm just going to give that a moment or two. So once we've cooled down, your adhesive has now done its job, where it's stuck the fusible web onto the back of your fabric. Now grab a pair of scissors, and apologies, I did not say that at the beginning, but hopefully you've got a pair of scissors kicking around, and we're going to simply cut out that shape. You can use your fabric scissors because we are going through mostly fabric. So we're going to cut that out. Of course, if you've got something like an animal, like I don't know, an elephant, or I don't know why I picked on elephant, let's just get that out of the way. It is going to be slightly more tricky to cut out, but this is where you want to start getting some accuracy in. So let's finish cutting that out. Okay, this can be thrown away unless you want any other shapes out of that. And you can see here we've got our fabric heart. So the front of it is where our fabric is, and then the back here we can feel our smooth surface. The next thing that you're going to do is grab a pin, and I didn't say that at the beginning either. What am I like? Let's get a pin, and all you're going to do is just scratch it in a couple of places. All we're doing is just scoring the surface. I have no idea whether you can see that. Yeah, can you see just a bit? It's scored on the back of this. Now, as I crack it and break it and fold it, can you see how this starts coming apart? And this is what we're doing now, is we're tearing that shiny, the smooth papery bit away from the fusible web because we don't need that anymore. So if we score it with a pin, it's easy just to fold and break that surface, and then we can simply peel it away. And what you'll find is that you'll feel it's slightly tacky, but you'll feel that it's a little bit different now on the back of your fabric. It feels a bit smooth, a bit tacky, but that's our fusible web all stuck into place. So let's get rid of the rest of this. Okay, so we don't want any of that. And once you've torn this off, you cannot do anything with that. So just discard that in the bin or the recycling. And now we've got our fabric heart. So here we've got the right side of the fabric, and on the back you've got your fusible web. You can't really see it, but you can feel it. Now, and it's escaping. Now we're going to get that background fabric, and we're going to position our heart or our shape wherever we want it. Now, a little word about this. Once it's stuck, that's it. So you need to be very sure that you know where it is going to go. If you want your shape exactly in the middle of your square or whatever it is, then simply fold your shape, your square rather, in half and in half again to find your center point. And there we can see our center, and then I can put my heart and I can position it nicely in the middle. But of course you can put it anywhere that you want or need it to go. It's just that you need to know that once it's stuck, it is stuck. Okay, what we are going to do then is making sure that that sort of slightly tacky side down the wrong side of our fabric is now facing the right side of our backing fabric, our background fabric. So this background fabric, the right side will be facing you, and with our applique shape, the wrong side will be facing down onto the background fabric. I'm going to position that into place. So now we've got the right side of our applique shape fabric facing us, and we've got the right side of our background fabric facing us. If we are happy that that is in the right place, we're going to get our tea towel again, and mine has disappeared. Okay, I've got it. We're going to put that over the shape again. Even though you're absolutely 100% sure, it's still very easy to have something go a little bit wrong. So always use an old tea towel. I've got this tea towel that I just use for all my sticky sewing, if you like, or the sticky ironing. So anything like fusible web or interfacing or fusible fleece or anything like that, I always have a tea towel in between my iron and the thing that I am pressing. So if that's in position, make sure it hasn't moved. I'm going to treat it the same way. So I'm going to hold it for the count of 10. 5, are you counting? 7, 8, 9, 10, and move it along a little bit. This is only a small shape, so almost one iron would do the job, but let's make sure it is stuck all over. So if you look at the fusible web instructions that you'll get, it generally says somewhere between 8 and 10 seconds or 10 to 12 seconds. So what I do is I hold it and I count slowly-ish to 8 or 10 or whatever it says, normally to 10. And then you can see it is all stuck down onto my background fabric, and that's stuck down onto, this is why you do not want bits of fusible web on your ironing board, because it will stick to anything. So there we have our fabric heart stuck on our background fabric. Then the next thing that you do is you would stitch round the edge either by hand or by machine. I have got a whole tutorial on how to satin stitch round edges and curves, which I'll pop up on the end that you can have a look at. So that is a shape that it doesn't matter which way around it is, but what about shapes that you can't reverse, like letters, or maybe you want, picking on our elephant, maybe you want elephants going in one direction and not the other direction. How do you do that? Okay, so let's have a quick look at that then. So with letters, particularly when you've got directional letters or any directional shapes that you want, we are going to have to do it in a slight opposite direction. I apologise for the shadows, by the way. It has got very dark outside and it looks like it's going to pour with rain, so I've had to put all the lights on. So what we're going to do is we're going to trace it in the same way, but this time we're going to turn our fusible web over. So remember on the last shape we traced with the silky, the shiny, the smooth side facing upwards. This time we're changing this over so that this rougher side is facing us and facing upwards. Once that's in position, and we can stick it down again if we've got a bit of that masking tape hanging around. If not, you just have to hold it down. So let me get those into place. A little bit of tape does help to keep it in position. And when you've got straight lines like we have on this L here, this is where the rulers come into their own. So now I've got the rough side of our fusible web facing towards me. I'm going to do exactly the same thing. I am going to trace over the lines. It's just enough for us to see so that we can cut out in the middle. This L has got sort of curvy corners, which I quite like actually. And again, for letters, just look for clip art letters or letters with outlines on Google and you'll find plenty of them. Did I do that bit? Yes, I did that bit. So that's that. So I've traced my letter on the wrong side of our fusible web. So can you see that? And then we treat it all exactly the same way. And let me show you how this works. So I'm going to get my ironing board ready, or my little ironing mat. And then just before, I've got my applique fabric and the background fabric, just the same as before. This is my applique fabric. I'm going to turn that over. So, oh, it was turned over. So that the wrong side of my fabric is facing me. So I know it looks like that's the right side, but it's actually the wrong side. Look, there's the right side of the fabric. So the right side is facing downwards. We've got the wrong side of our fabric facing up. Now we've got our letter. So this time that rough side, just before, like before, we're going to put it on the wrong side of our fabric like before, but this time it's going to face the wrong way. Don't panic. What I'm going to do though, and this is a good thing to show you, can you see how my fusible web piece here is actually bigger than my applique fabric? And you remember what happened before? It got stuck on my ironing pad. I'm just going to trim that so it is fits onto my fabric so we don't have any more mishaps. And don't worry about doing that. So there we go. Is it going to stick? Let's cut a little bit off the end. There we go. So that's within my applique fabric. So can you see how my L shape is now back to front on my fabric? It will turn around the right way, but you need to make sure that that rough side of your fusible web is facing downwards onto the wrong side of your fabric, and the smooth side is facing up towards you, and your letter, or whatever direction or shape it is facing the wrong way. That is absolutely correct. Then I'm going to do exactly the same as I did before. Get my tea towel, put that over the top. I'm going to get my hot iron and we're just going to press it and count to 10. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Let's move it along a little bit. That should get the whole of our L shape in. And count to 10 slowly. Okay. Right, that should be that in place. Let's have a look. Okay. So can you see there the fusible web is stuck onto the back of that fabric? I'm going to give that a second to cool down. That's all cooled down, and then just as before we are going to cut that shape out. Again with your fabric scissors. I'm going to get those nice curved edges there because I like them. Okay. Obviously you don't have to have curved edges. You can have straight edges if you want. It just depends on the shape that you are using. But I think they're quite attractive. Okay, Let's go around the corner there. And trim that off there. Okay, so those are the bits that we can discard. There is our L shape. Now, the same as before, we're going to get a pin and we're going to score the back here so that we get rid of the paper bit. So that's it scored. We're going to take that paper off. All this process now is exactly the same that we did on our heart a few minutes ago. So there's our L. Let me get the backing fabric, the background fabric. And then when we turn this L round, so this is the slightly sticky adhesive side, we turn that round and now we have our letters going exactly the right way, or whatever shape it is that you want going in the right way. And then we can just stick that down exactly as before. Let me do that. It's got all stuck to itself. I'm going to pop that there. In fact, you know what? I'm going to pop that over there and I'm going to put some other letters along there. We're going to put our tea towel over the top of it, just as before. And then we're going to stick it down with our iron. So we're going to press it and hold it for about 8 to 10 seconds on a hot iron. You can see how dusty this iron is. This is our household iron. It's not a fancy iron for appearing on camera. It's just the iron that gets used every day. There we are. And as I pull this off, you can see that our L is stuck down and we are all sorted. And that is how we do that fusible web applique. I do hope that has helped. Let me know how you get on. I'd love to know that you've got into applique and you now know how to do it. It opens up a whole world of possibilities. If it has helped, please don't forget to like, subscribe and hit that notification bell. I will love you and leave you for now, and I will look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.